Welcome, and hope everyone's having a lovely day. Is it Wednesday? It is Wednesday today, isn't it? I think we do a few different sessions for Pearson and we look at different areas, but this is my favourite. This particular point and the time in the year, and I suppose I want to put a caveat on that a little bit. Nothing makes up for high quality maths teaching all the way through, whether it's secondary school, high school, all school, whatever. Nothing makes up for that. But then the opportunities to put a bit of gloss on, have a good final run. What opportunities are there to do things differently? It's at this point now that things can happen. Um, I'll go on to this slide here. So myself and Mel have worked together for many, many years. We're not currently at the same school together now, but we've done and worked together, and particularly battling and getting GCSE results over the years together. We met together at a school that became the most improved school in England back in 2012. And then the school I'm at right now got the accolade this year, the most improved school in England. So I quite like the fact that got there twice. We've worked at the TES Maths Team of the Year together, and we run JustMaths in the background as well. So hopefully what we say today comes with a bit of credibility. It's worked time and time again. It's worked in different settings. It's worked when we've spoke to other schools. And when I say it has worked, there's ideas and nuggets that you can take that work in your setting that hopefully can have a bit of a gain, improvement, jump in results, or whatever scenario you guys are in. It might be just tweaking, and there might be just something you go, actually, yeah, this will work very, very well for our current setting, our current cohort. So first and foremost, we are teachers. We are doing the job. We are day to day there. Our role with Pearson is called a credible specialist. And what that means is that we are teachers that have a bit of time put aside to work with schools. So Pearson can put you in touch with us. We don't work for Pearson, so everything we talk about today is our day-to-day job, working in secondary schools where Mal is and where myself is. And please take our email address and keep in touch, because it might be that you just want to come and see something in action at our school that we talk about, or we come to you and have a chat, or we meet across a trust, or whatever you want us to do. But we're available, basically. The plan for this session and what we hope is that you'll have some ideas, nuggets, golden nuggets that you can take away to help support the year 11 on that final run-in. And it is 13 weeks tomorrow, or is it today? It's either the Wednesday or the Thursday. I think it's 13 weeks tomorrow. So the final run-in between now and that first exam. And I think I've put on the next slide, possibly, those key dates of where we're working towards. But it's about what could work within those next 13 weeks up until that exam. It is a polite reminder, and I'll keep reminding this. Make sure that Pearson Authenticator app is on your phone, whether it's head of department level, department, maths teacher, because when you want to go into a lot of the things we talk about today, it does require you to go and get that number to put in as the second level verification. Right, the question of last year, no, this was 2023, this one. So every year there's a question that everyone's talking about. The one that makes it onto Twitter, makes it onto Snapchat, makes it onto whatever people have on their phones nowadays. This was 2023. This was last year's one. And I remember, actually, if I ping back to that one, that was the GCSE my son did. So he came back and I remember him drawing that to explain this question to me. And this is the one from last year. What's going to be this year's question that we're all talking about? Not quite the highs and the conversations of Hannah Sweets that we had many, many years ago. But Hannah Sweets now, and it's interesting going back and looking at these type of questions that make those conversations. Hannah Sweets is a pretty standard kind of question nowadays. Pretty straightforward maths in the grand scheme of some of those tougher questions that we've seen along the exam sittings recently. There we go. I knew I put the dates in somewhere. So the dates for your diaries. Um, what I should put on there as well is that I don't know what the proper name is, the day at the end of the exam sitting to make sure is kept clear in case of any um, exceptional circumstance that's happened throughout that year in a location. And I think that was brought in following the devastating Grenfell Tower um, situation for those students there. So there is a date, and we don't forget and put that in your planner as well, that it's got a special name that you keep clear following an exam sitting. We've got three, looking at the left-hand side there, the GCSE maths, not so much the statistics and the extended certificate for today. All morning exams again. We've got one Thursday and two Wednesdays this year. So there'll be before half term, then there's a whole week, and then it's half term. So we've got the Thursday the 15th, then a whole week, then half term, and then we come back and it's the two Wednesdays following half term for the exams for this summer. Every year we've had a bit of a countdown timer, just written, handwritten up on a whiteboard, and you forget to rub it out and replace it after a couple of days. And then by the time you next replace it, it's gone from 200 to 100 days. So new job. I say new job. I've been there 2 years now. I get a little parcel in the post. I open it up, and it's always exciting to get a parcel in the post. No matter what age you are, it is good to get a parcel in the post. And particularly when it's not around Christmas time or birthday time. So September, get a little parcel, open it up, and I get one of these in the post, and it's Mal. And I didn't know what it was to start with. I thought, is it a fancy calculator? What is it? And setting the timer, and then next thing I know, Mal's sending me a picture of hers, and I sent mine picture of her. And in fact, I was one day out. It was mine that was the mistake. But we have this on our desk. It's a countdown clock for handy days to the GCSE exam in seconds. And it's not that we want to scare students. It's not that we want to keep banging on about it. It's just there in the background. When they walk in, they have a quick glance, and it's the harsh reality, really. Within a lesson, okay, the clock changes, but the grand scheme of thing of building up to that exam when you're in year 10, and we set this the minute that paper 3 is finished for year 11 for the current year 10. So we literally set this, myself and Mal, ready for that current year 10 into year 11 of what they're chasing for at that point. Year 11 have finished. And it's just the conversations that kids have when they walk in, going, particularly after a half term, after a weekend, after a holiday, coming in and seeing the significant change in that countdown. And I think it was pennies from Amazon, if I'm right, Mal.
Yeah,
I'm not belittling your gift there, but
they were relatively inexpensive. But the impact of showing, we're now at 90 something days, and it does really, it's about normalizing the pressure that students and not necessarily raising the pressure, but normalizing it, making them realize that there is an element that stress is normal, and that's when we talk about performance athletes, they don't go into the arena without an element of pressure and stress, and that's because they get a little bit used to it. And that's what I'm trying to do with this, with my little countdown clock, and having a bit of fun with it as well.
But I think also that pressurizing and the normalizing of it is, you're taking an element away from the pressure, because we always talk when we come back after Easter, or even about this time now, we start saying these numbers: 13 weeks to the exam, 12 weeks to the exam, 10 weeks to the exam. But they've been seeing this countdown constantly. It's not a surprise when you start building it in, and it can help when you're setting homeworks or around mock period, and hopefully getting the emphasis a little bit on the students in terms of upping their workload, maybe a little bit earlier than normal. But it's just a nice little idea that we have on our desk, that when you set it in front of that class with them, they're part of the journey. It's not being done to them this time running out. You're having them part of that countdown. And it's nice that my current year 11 saw me set it with them. And it's like, I can't believe when you did that, sir, it was this. Yeah, the reality is we have now only got 96 days to the exam or whatever it happens to be now. We're going to talk about a few different things throughout the course of today in terms of quite independent little nuggets. That's more today's session, and I think that's why I like it. There's not a generic theme that we're trying to get through here. We're talking about little ideas, could work, couldn't work. And it's all about here that don't forget the basics. We're going back years now when we first set this, and I remember Graham coming at Pearson, and he still does some work behind the scenes for Pearson. And Graham said on the day of the exam is one of the days where it goes quiet in the offices, purely because all the kids are sitting the exams up and down the country. So there was a little bit of a breather, and I think a lot of them on the day of the exam in the office had a bit of a competition just to see who could get 100% on the foundation paper in the office under the pressure of phones ringing off to lunch around, people asking for jobs, etc. So very low key in the offices of Pearson. Whether they still do it now or not, I haven't got a clue. And it was when he turned and said to me, and no one's ever got it. And I thought, right, if none of these adults, and we're not talking about the examiners here that write the question, we're just talking about all the staff working around. And I thought, why don't we do this and bring this in as a competition element with our students throughout the course of whether it's year 11, year 10, GCSE, Key Stage 4, whatever it happens to be. And again, normalising these papers, normalising the questions, low key, constantly chipping away at it, but bringing it in with a competition element, just like what Graham mentioned with the staff at the offices. So it first started when I had a cover lesson of an ICT cover lesson in the computer room, and I said, I ain't teaching that. You're coming up to my room. And it was something that was just go and watch a video, go and play a game. It was something that was no support, no, it was a waste of an hour. So I said, right, you're coming up to my room. And we literally, and I think Mal was in the room opposite, I've got all these students coming up, right, what are we going to do? Can I teach them something? And we had a ruck of foundation papers in the back corner. So I said, Mal, what we're going to do? And it was, oh, like, what about these here? And we literally just said, right, foundation paper challenge. And because it was an IT group that was a mixed attainment in terms of maths students, I had, I can't remember his surname, but it was Dan, said, I'm not doing this, I'm doing higher. And that was in front of the students. And I said, right, it's just a little competition to make sure you're practicing your basics. It was early in year 11, so it wasn't the dirty end of year 11 where they're getting ready and you really want to focus on the higher tier, foundation tier. And I remember Mal was available. I had a big group. There was a TA as well. We went running around marking the papers. And this Dan fell and he lost his first mark. And I think it was question 11 or 14. It was early in a foundation paper. And it rumbled him in terms of, actually, this foundation paper is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. That was the first ilk. It was practicing the key skills around that class. And what we found every year, no matter what year group, all the years we've done it, we've gone back into Results Plus, looked at our data, our stats, and foundation tier students are outperforming the higher tier students on those key skills when they crop up on the crossover. So highest common factor, lowest common multiple, every year without fail, our foundation tier students are doing better at that than the higher tier. Not because of anything other than your final run to the exams, particularly year 11, you are doing the dirtier end of a higher tier. You're doing the dirtier end of a foundation tier. You're doing the stuff that probably falls in the scheme of work for that period of time. So the higher tier were being outperformed on those key skills. And this helps that out, bringing back to the forefront what are the lowest common multiples, highest common factors, product to prime factors. all of that kind of skills, all of that kind of stuff. But it also then ensures that you're practicing the start of the foundation tier for your foundation tier students, and not just, again, that crossover material, which can end up being part and parcel of your year 11 teaching. But it also means that you can put to the back burner a little bit, if you build in challenges like this, your key skills. You can get cooking on the crossover and then use opportunities like the foundation paper challenge to go back over and practice the stuff that you generally will forget to teach or not have time to go back over and teach. So the reflex angle on the left hand side there, our cohort in 2024, that was the worst answer question on the paper for my tier, my foundation tier students. And then I'll start questioning myself, why have I not done it? Why have I not brought this up? But then nationally, it was also the worst answer question on the foundation paper, or one of the worst answer questions, because of that scenario of we don't go back over that nitty gritty stuff enough, particularly in that final running. So the foundation paper challenges helps you highlight up some misconceptions, help highlight up things that you wouldn't have thought to bring up. How many lessons do we build into teaching the height of a man versus the height of a tree? I can almost guarantee not one of us in here today would have thought to build that in at some point up to the 2018 paper when that appeared, or the 2017 paper. So it gives you that opportunity. Now that Dan, when he walked out the room, he turned to me, he waited back to the last one. He said, I really enjoyed that, sir. When can we do it again? And that's from walking in saying, I'm not doing this, I don't want to do it, to walking out saying he wanted to do it the next time he possibly could, was a turnaround. He wanted to practice those key skills. Now, I've done this with just a foundation group as well. And I remember the first time I did it, the boys in there really raised to the challenge, those PE boys. And there was a girl in there called Lauren, and this is just me literally choosing scenarios. She says, in fact, it wasn't the first time. She was fine the first time. She fell at one part B. And this may be my fault that I called her 1B for the rest of the time that she was with me. But she was nervous. I remember saying, I'm going to do another one. This was a couple of months later, a month later or so. She said, I'm really nervous. I don't want to fall at 1B again. And it was her wanting to go and break past each time we did it, that element of competition again on herself and the group that want to practice those nitty gritty parts. I think it's on the next slide. No, it might be on a future slide, but the starters, the one marker starters on the Emporium have all of the 1 mark questions that have cropped up since 2017 up to 2024 as starters of questions. So you can practice them with lower year groups as well. So they're practicing them as starters, and you can then build it up to competitions or foundation paper challenges throughout up to and including year 11. Anything to add on that, Mal?
Yes, so we've actually formalised this, taken this one stage further and produced some funky like festival type, don't know, no, they're just funky posters, and we have a foundation paper challenge instead of as our revision session, so our booster session, where the kids, they've got a shortened version of a past paper, first 50 marks, and then that's got a new front cover on it, funked it up, saying that's 53 marks. Then I've taken the shadow version, again, new front cover, only the first 53 marks. That's their at-home version, with the idea being that they work through the in-school version with the teachers in the room. They then take the outside school version home. And if they can do that potentially could get through about 28 papers if they're doing 2 a week. So using the shadow versions is helping, but with higher challenge, higher first 40 marks challenge, I think it is, where again, they do an in-school version and a shadow version that they take home, having had some teacher input, so they're not perpetuating misconceptions. So we have formalised that. I think we had a really good attendance last week. Might have been just because it was after parents' evening, but it was the highest attendance we've had so far this year, which was fab.
I think anything you can do, the element of competition with stuff throughout year 11 in particular, and getting the buy-in from again those, I'm not stereotyping, but your PE boys that thrive on the sport element, on the competition part, and having chocolate bars up for grabs and things like that. Just any kind of element of competition. And the foundation paper challenge, born out of a complete random conversation one year, has become a bit of a staple for myself and Mal, particularly for year 11. And I remember our previous school together, we was given a notice of one day for a drop down day. You have now got all of year 10, it was actually, if you remember, Mal, all of year 10 tomorrow for period 4. Oh, what do we do? Right, okay, let's do a break from the norm, foundation paper challenge. And again, the boys bought into it straight away. And I remember it did offend me a little bit. The one lad turned into us, said, "That's the best math lesson we've ever had." Oh, does that mean all the normal maths lessons with us are not the best? But really enjoyed that element of competition, and it was just pure exam practice, but with that competition side of it. Right, back to presentation. Right, this one is more here, right, little and often, and I know Mal puts this all over any communication she sends home or talks about with students. Maths is about little and often. Anything is about little and often in a healthy, balanced diet. So maths is as well. And not having a big break in between things. And I don't mean so much the day-to-day of a school. Okay, little and often you probably see maths or have maths most days of a week. It's over the weekends, it's over the holidays, over the half terms, but at home as well. And these ideas are just ideas that you can do yourself, but having there's a bigger picture here that I'm going to come to in a second, but a communication with parents of dropping a maths calendar or something, a maths question of the month, a maths question of the week, whacking it on the fridge door, and then the communication builds up next month, next week, whenever you send off the answers to them. So again, like I said, this is about a bigger picture here. We call it the final countdown in year 11. Essentially, you can do something off and make it off Maths Wizard, Exam Wizard. You can do something in-house, make an exam paper, whatever it is you happen to do, but it's about communication, little and often. So at the end of year 10, I know Mal does something different with year 10 end of year mocks and has a big communication around that point. Feel free to butt in at any point, Mal, but I know your audio is playing up a little bit there. But
so at the end of year 10, we send a quite a detailed question level analysis out to year 10 parents and students, almost intimating that this is the level of support you're going to get from us as you go into year 11. That triggers me to then set up all the email lists. So I've got an email list for each group that's set higher foundation. That means that any communication in year 11 becomes easy. Then as the year goes on, but we're now at the point where a small number of topics, just to give them a bit of focus revision.
so I'll jump in now. I think Mal's audio's just dropped off again. But final countdown is essentially, for us, we have split up, and this is how we do it, the crossover, the content that we want all students to be good at, and we email every Friday. Well, I do it every Friday back home to parents. I started at the end of year 10, and I've done it. And if anyone wants to have a look at the email I've sent, just give me a message and I'll show you what I've wrote. It's a nice email at the end of year 10. My son has just finished year 11, which was true. And I've got my daughter currently in year 11, so I can use the same email going forward to next year. A very nurtured approach that we're here to hold your hands. It's going to be a tough year, and I'm going to be in contact regular throughout year 11. the maths calendar is an opportunity, or creating a maths calendar or a question, guys out there, in terms of having something to attach to it. Another method is that I put a OneDrive link and I put a load of past papers in, not ones that I want to use as mocks. So we use the practice sets on the Emporium with the mark schemes, and they can dip into that. And again, it's creating this link and the communication back home. Just on a support email, support Zoom meeting before this, and having a conversation with the school, the biggest thing that came through on that conversation was upping the parental communication. And I'm not talking about spending hours writing emails or hours putting stuff together. This is something that you can do little and often. And like I said, I do it on a Friday. In terms of what Mel was talking about and setting up email groups, if anyone else has got Arbor out there, I'm not here to promote anyone, but Arbor seems to have a very, very easy setup to be, and I use it, we use Arbor at our school, to send a quick email to parents of 11MA1, parents of or students of 11MA2, and I can then attach stuff to those emails as well. Very, very simple setup. So that introductory email at the end of year 10, just, and like Mel said, she does it with a question level analysis based off their end of year 10 mocks. I just talk about, I'm here to hold your hand, and here is a OneDrive link full of stuff you can practice and dip into. We come back in year 11, I'll re-emphasize I've got this OneDrive link, and then we do some monthly maths calendars over the year, but we follow up with a question level analysis from their mocks in November. When we land in January, we send them what we call the final countdown. And again, easy enough to do, and create your own for your school, a selection of questions that you associate in one little pack to do with whether it's higher tier or crossover or foundation. Send it to the groups that you require, but not overloading them, not 100 questions. You're talking, you can see there, we send about 8 or 9 questions at a time that they can do gradually over that coming week, over the weekend, so it's over and done with. But we know when we have sent from the 1st of Jan to just the week before their first exam, they've covered all the crossover material, or all of the higher material, or all of the foundation working towards material. And it's about, the message here is not what you are sending, it is the frequency and the support you are sending. Never assume that students do, well, no, assume they do nothing at home unless you are giving them a direction and a guidance. How many students have got tutors? And if they do, are they being taught random stuff that you don't want them to be taught? I guarantee if this lands in a parent's inbox and they are being tutored, and I'm not talking about many of our students being tutored at all, but if they are, this will find their way in front of it, because the parents will have it, they'll pass that responsibility over to that tutor. Or parents that actually engage and actively open up their emails from school will see, actually, we get good things from Mr. Seager that's coming through, or useful material. What is it this week? But I've built up this relationship. I'm hoping that we end up with that they're expecting that email on the Friday. Like I said, you
Yeah,
may
I
hit
get
everyone, you may hit hardly anyone.
yeah, I get chased for it now and saying I haven't had this week, so, and can you send me the solutions to last week? I, I've got kids telling me that their dad's making them do it and he can't read my writing and it's unfair. Well, it might be, and it makes me chuckle, but it's being used and they're looking forward to, when does the next one come out, constantly.
Harrison, brilliant. Worked his socks off, but I've got to be honest, he was off my radar from the start of the year, being relatively new to the school. And then from mock set 1 to mock set 2, he boosted ridiculous amounts. And I just said to him in the lesson, what is it? Hoping he'd say, your brilliant lessons, sir. And he said, the stuff you're emailing home. And that was his answer. And there you go, it worked. And I did not know. And like Mal said, you end up being chased for it. You'll have the same core group that you're going to find hard to get in front of, but that's going to be the case whatever. But what you are doing is providing a support network and a structure to cover the essentials. And I cannot emphasize enough the parental link that you can create via the maths department at your school. Talked about starters here, and I think Amy's even popped those in the chat. And apologies if there is anything or any development, please just take our email at the end and give us an email rather than relying on that chat. If there's anything that you want answered there or then, I think Amy can answer it. But anything particular about anything we're talking about, please drop us an email, and that'll be the easiest way to develop that conversation a bit more. But I know the 1 marker starters are on the Emporium, and they are brilliant. I swear by them for my year 9s because I want them to be brilliant at the start of the foundation papers going into year 10, and knowing their key skills as well. Spice things up in year 11. Don't rely on the norm. If you are fortunate to get an extra session, maybe tutor time, maybe core PE, maybe an RE or a PSHE lesson, or a dismantled day and you gain some extra time, don't just go in there and go, right, the norm. Try and spice it up a little bit. It's amazing how a maths revision clock with a selection of GCSE crossover questions, just with an arrow pointing to the right saying start and they spin upside down, can get the attention span back on for a group of teenagers. Unbelievable. Just because of the way it looks. So just think about spicing stuff up a little bit at this running from 12, 13 weeks left to the exam, when you are constantly stressing about, right, I need to get some more exam papers in front of you, but I've got to finish my curriculum. Think about the opportunity just to do the same, but looking a little bit different. And it does spice things up a little bit in terms of the students and their journey and experience of the same maths. What do you do on the day of the exam? What do you do in half terms? Think about when you've got those extra opportunities. Sorry, Mel.
No, don't apologise. And then in terms of the reality is we need to have students jumping from one topic to the next. So we think about this, we're training them for their final performance, which is the exam. So the idea of just giving them groups of, oh, they're going to do a Pythagoras group of exam questions, they need to be practicing the skill of feeling up and down. Oh, that was easy, that was hard, I didn't know that topic. So they need to be practicing for exactly what they're going to see in an exam, not necessarily in the same way, which is why we do use questions. We might adapt them, but in a different way. Me, one of the big wins is I'll print it on A3. It sounds pathetic and such a simple thing, but putting stuff on A3 and going, oh, you can work in pairs, does help with engagement. But we're talking about for those one-off lessons, and I'm not really a fan. We're now at the point where we are sort of honing those skills that they need for their final performance.
Right. So we now have a bit of clarification that we're going to have the exam aids going forward till the 2027 exams. So don't just whack them in front of the students. Don't just pop them on a table when they're doing a mock exam paper. Spend a bit of time making it a comfort blanket for them, or making it something that they are prepared to see. And I don't mean by showing them and talking them through it. And Mal spent ages putting together a presentation. And again, drop us an email about these individual things if you want to at the end, where it's tick or trash. So we called it the tick or trash presentation. And Mal literally went through, created a presentation, a couple of slides that just looks at a foundation or the higher version of the exam aid with, okay, tick, we use this, or trash, we don't teach it like this, we make it look like this. So Sokotoa, for example. And it's just an edit of it to put that element of the way you teach those areas of maths on that document that will be part and parcel of the exams until 2027. Mm-hmm. But then there's also a little worksheet that goes with it that has a question based off the different elements within that formula sheet. Now, something that rumbled me this year that I wasn't prepared for, was the volume of the square-based pyramid question, which is a formula that's not on the exam aid, but also not one that's embedded within the a question, a bit like spheres and cones for the students. So just be aware of what is on the formula sheet, what is expected to be known, and what is not expected to be known. So, for example, spheres and
That
cones.
was, yeah, we've had confirmation this week about the pyramids. The pyramids will now be embedded within the question going forwards. So make sure you're signed up for Vicky's newsletter. So everything that they will need to know in terms of that kind of stuff will be embedded within the question, but there will be other stuff. This is essential. We train students how to use it. In our mocks, I hadn't prepared my group of students to use it, and I had them trying to apply they knew it was a compound interest question because the question said compound interest, and they tried to apply the formula, but that's not the way that group of students were taught. It does make me wonder how much time they wasted doing it, and could that time have been better off spent elsewhere? Because for some, it did look like they'd spent a lot of time. They didn't get any marks because it's not the way I teach the topic. So just making them aware of what is and isn't on there. So like area of a circle is really useful to know, is on there. So that's one less thing that they need to remember, in which case go and learn something else or go and practice a different skill. Oh
Some
yeah.
little things here.
So teaching much about relationships and about showing students that even when it comes down to managing behavior, you do it because it's the right thing to do. So on the day of the exam, again, all your schools will have different methods of briefing students on the morning of the exam. We don't do that here, but there were some key messages I wanted to be able to say to my students. So myself and a colleague went out and we actually wrote, so you can see that's in the order that they're walking into their exam, a load of those messages that you would have said verbally as a head of maths or a lead prac within your department, right from the tennis courts where they lined up, right until the door of the exam. We came in about 30 minutes earlier, got some chunky chalks and wrote them there, and then we changed them for their second exam. And the kids absolutely loved it because it was the only subject that did something different. Whether or not it made a difference, I don't know, but it's certainly that old adage about people not only remembering how you make them feel. So that was something we did here, and it worked really well.
Share the knowledge with the students of what the exam is all about and how it looks and how it feels. And what I mean by that, and I know a lot of schools do this, but talk about the language of crossover, the fact that these are the common questions at the start of that higher tier towards the end of the foundation tier. Talk about the last question or two might be different or should be different to what's on that higher tier paper. Just again, the language of crossover, and when the students can talk that language, what it is, it's a huge bridge of a gap between those two tiers. And when you get students talking about it, and the way we email, again, going back to that final countdown that we do, sharing the crossover, it's that common language for maths for all students in that year group. And it's so important, as we all know, to the grade that comes out at the end for the student, knowing that content. But having them discussing, supporting, helping each other, the language of crossover is key, not just for the staff, but for the students as well. And we've had particular success over the years for the beating the national average when we go back in and look at it in Results Plus with the crossover, and particularly on the foundation tier, actually, which happens to be the group that I teach. But never mind, we'll talk about that another time. We've got the image there of the crossover revision guide. If anyone wants a free copy of that, just let me know at the end. I'll pop one in the post to you so you can have a look at some questions that are in there. Again, know the papers inside out, share it with the students, talk about it with the students. one markers, we set up a competition from the first time they see the foundation paper. I want them to ace the first double page. I know it's not all one markers on the first double page. It's normally the first 5 or 6 questions, but I still want them to ace it. So the first thing they do is work out how many marks are on that double page. Is it 7? Is it 8? Is it 9 marks? And they're desperately trying to not drop a mark on it. From all the practice, the starters, the constant recall questions that I throw at the students, they're aiming to nail the first page. And then that trickles through to the higher tier students as well. And they're constantly talking about those type of questions. Again, it's the common, okay, we're talking about the higher tier here now, the common assessed, the crossover material. At the start of the foundation, we're talking about the 1 markers, but it's all about the knowledge of that paper, of where things are going to be sitting, that starts them off in the right mentality to get better and better and better as they're working through. And if you've built that in as part and parcel of your teaching and talking about it now, who nailed the first double page? Who got the first question right? And trying to get the real, I suppose, those issues sorted at this point now, when they sit and do that real exam in the summer and they've built up that resilience for that first few questions, first 2 pages, the first 1 markers, whatever they are, they're going to be in a better position for when they hit those harder questions later. They're going to be ready for them. They're going to be more relaxed and into the paper because they know they've done well on those first few questions, first few pages. So yeah, share that knowledge with the students.
So there's also something that we've done, just as and there isn't a slide on this, where I've put together the first 5 questions and also added the performance data from the skills map. So being able to say to a student, as I'm using them probably once, I don't know, once every 2 weeks, I might go, oh, here's the papers, the first 5 questions, higher or foundation, depending on the group, from summer 2020. And that would be my starter. And then I'm discussing with them. So only 35% of students got the average score on this was 35%. How did we do as a group? So they can see some easy wins from it, that they're doing better than the average EdXL students, and that seems to have gone down well. And I think there was a couple of those put on the Emporium at some point in the past.
Yeah, I think we've got a slide that shows those in a second.
Okay.
We've got the mark schemes. There are training available. You can watch the videos on those as well in the PD Academy. Show the students the mark schemes. Share with them the mark schemes. Explain how they work. Talk them through where 1 mark trickles in. But also share with them examiners' reports as well. Talk through some. I don't mean spend ages looking through them, but when you've got that opportunity to read one yourself, share that knowledge with the students. It's amazing what little anecdotes are in there that can really support the students. Not just things like organisation and leaving you working out in a logical way, but that can then trigger a conversation about, right, split your page when it comes to a comparison question, or where does the first mark kick in on this? And I love to say, and I was doing constructions with year 11 yesterday, just the bisecting an angle and perpendicular lines, but talking about where's the obvious place to put the spike here. And it's the obvious place where, when you're bisecting an angle, is where the 2 lines join. Or where's the obvious place now when you're bisecting a line, dropping a perpendicular? Oh, we haven't got one, but we've got 2 ends. Oh, in that case, then let's make it fair and do it on both ends. And I've gone off on a bit of a tangent there a little bit, but nonetheless, when you know where that first mark kicks in yourself and you're sharing it with the students, it becomes a great conversation. That, what do you think happens here if you put the compass here and put an arc? Oh, I reckon you get a mark, sir. And they answer the question for you a little bit. And just, I can't emphasize enough again, knowing the mark schemes, and if anyone's an examiner, you'll back me up on this. When you know the mark schemes and you examine externally, it's a great advantage to share with your students. So why not do it in-house anyway? You mark the mocks, you mark their internal assessments, share with them how you've marked them from early on when they're first seen a paper back in year 9, year 10. and build that all the way through year 11, and particularly the mocks that are coming up or around now for you guys in-house. The timeline is not just 13 weeks. It is 3, 4, 5 years. It probably even starts from when you get their SATs score come through from their year 6 data. But if anyone wants this and wants to have a look at what we put, this is our case study, if you like. It's where we see the ideal fit for a lot of the resources that are on the Emporium, but anecdote ideas throughout the course of the 3 years, where things can dribble in throughout that. And we have done a session on this, so there will be a recording on the PD Academy for this. But if you just want that document to have a look at, again, you get the link to the presentation after this anyway, so you'll see it. But again, anything in particular you want to talk about, give us a shout. We've got some go-tos in terms of videos, and don't underestimate the power of the video for a student. The kids love it. It gives an opportunity for the lesson to be a bit more fun as well in terms of something different. There are some great ones out there. Johnny Ball's introduction to capture recapture, which is on YouTube, and you can find that. It's a little bit old now in terms of the sound quality, but you ramp up the sound. It's a brilliant watch. Introducing capture recapture. Obviously, that's higher tier only. The original Powers of 10 1977 video with the couple on the shore of Lake Michigan in Chicago, where it zooms out into space, then goes back into the hand of the person. Brilliant watch. Circumference is pi times diameter. A great tune that my year 11 reel off, even saying it in tune now. And then there's also the area of the trapezium, Pop Goes the Weasel song. Just don't underestimate digging in and looking for something to make it visual from this point onwards. Don't think it's a young year 7 thing to watch a video or put something on to try and get it catchy in their head. I've got a suite of my year 11s all knowing circumference is pi times diameter. I know they've got the formula sheet, but it rolls off their tongue. And I know we've got the formula sheet for the quadratic formula, but I've been drilling that with my year 9s. I want them to remember it. I think you use it better when it's from your memory, not on a formula sheet. I firmly believe that. And area of a trapezium, okay, it's written as a plus b and all of that stuff on a formula sheet, but when it's in that tune of half the sum of the parallel sides times the height between them, it works, it makes sense. So just a couple there of my go-tos that I really enjoy drilling in and hopefully making it plant in their brain for the rest of their life. A bit of the way I still remember Sokoto, as some old horses can always hear their owner's approach.
Silly old Harry caught a herring trawling off Alaska.
There you go. We never lose it, do you? You never lose it. It's always there. These are this has come over years, I think. And I remember when money was thrown at education when the Labour government were in the first time. I said the first time in recent history, when Tony Blair, things can only get better, and a bit of money came into pots of schools. And we set up exam packs in our school where it was a tough environment anyway to rely on the students to remember it. And I remember teachers then saying, no, the emphasis has to be on the student to bring these. And almost for anyone who didn't bring it, okay, it doesn't matter. And I get it. I get that we have to build in resilience for students, but we've also got to build in the fact these are still teenagers. They're still disorganized in life. There's lots going on at home. There's lots going on in their own social lives. So let's make things easy to get through the exam, which is good for them for the rest of their life. Do they have the right equipment? But I don't just mean an exam pack. Think about the intricacies of what's in that exam pack. Does the ruler, is it 15 centimeters or is it 30 centimeters? This one, is it transparent or is it solid that you can't see through it? Have you ever tried drawing a line of best fit when it's a white solid ruler? It's a lot harder than when it's a transparent one. Little questions that you can ask yourself about what they've got in front of them, and actually, is it stuff that you've provided so they've all got the same experience when it comes to their equipment? I cannot stand half circle protractors. I hate them. And my kids this week, no, it wasn't, it was Friday last week, I did pie charts. I had all of year 11 together. We did pie charts. The one group, my group, who are used to using the full circle ones, that it's just the norm. The other group that came in amalgamated with mine, never seen them. They're only used to the half circles, and their wording was, why have we never seen these before? And it rumbled it again as recent as last Friday. I want all of year 11 to have the same journey, the same experience, and the same equipment. I'm not saying I'm forcing them to use the full circle over the half circle, but I'll tell you what, when they've experienced the full circle, and I don't mean the huge, massive 15 centimetre diameter ones, I mean the nice little plasticky ones. And again, let me know if you want to see an image of the ones that we use. I'll send a picture and ping it over to you. Nice little 8 centimetre diameter, perfect for pie charts, perfect for bearings, and perfect for any angle measurement over 180 degrees. The compasses, the pair of compasses, and this will make you laugh a little bit. A member of staff recently came to me and said, right, you've put a compass inside their exam packs, but it says on the front of it, pair of compasses. That was a little bit of an in-joke that we have now, that I like to mention it to the kids, what a pair of compasses are compared to a compass. But compasses, are they nice and tight and not loose things before they go into that exam paper? And nothing worse than you're assuming that they can use it, brilliant, but we all know that they're horrible to use unless they're nice and tight. So have a screwdriver on hand at the back of the exam for the invigilators. Small pencil, not a big pencil. You can have a new set of small pencils, or snap a full one in half and sharpen both ends. Nothing worse than it whacking your hand and not being able to use it properly. Calculators. This is the big thing here at the moment because there are so many out there. We send a message in year 7, please buy this calculator. I did a survey in my year 7 class, get your calculator out. There was 14 different brands and makes and models in the room. I didn't even know there was 14 different ones available to buy, but my group found it and they all seem to have bought one different one each. That makes life difficult when it becomes getting ready for that exam. Are the students trained on the exam? Do they know the difference between an S to D button and a format button? Do they know where they can find product to prime factors on a calculator? Exam packs and training the students and having one in the hall that they can go to, that they're used to from their class, that they possibly use at home, having that correlation that they're always using the same thing and not the iPhone turned on its side, which is awful, awful, awful to use as a calculator. So please just spend a bit of time normalizing, formalizing, checking, whatever it happens to be, that they know what to use. Tracing paper. Again, in the last set of mocks, this rumbled me again. I thought I'm just going to put tracing paper out so it's ready for them. It threw them because they thought, why is tracing paper out? Do they expect me to use the tracing paper? Where's the question? So I've had to normalise that model. Right, tracing paper is going to be out on your desk, whether you need it or not. So it's there for you. Just not giving them the comfort blanket and the comfort zone that they know what to expect and it doesn't throw them on the day of the exam. And hence going back to putting the formula sheet on there, training, preparing those students for that on the desk in front of them in that real exam in the summer.
I know that some of you will be sat there going, but students should have their correct equipment, and I get all that. But the reality is, if you look at your data, and again, it's all context specific, but when we've looked at the context of our students that didn't get the 4, and where they didn't get the 4, it was heartbreaking to see some that didn't get for measuring a line. They didn't get any marks for measuring that line last summer, or measuring the angle. Was it because they didn't have the correct equipment? Because they didn't want to ask in a room of 200 people? And it's all well and good that the vast majority of teachers will be middle class, that we don't have those issues within our own homes, but some of our students will not be able to find their equipment on the day of the exam because their life is in disarray. and we should be looking to make sure that we ease that for those students. So I'm really passionate about making sure that we do level the playing field for our disadvantaged students by providing them some kind of exam packs. Not at the start, we make sure they're available every single session, not by giving them a calculator in year 7 that they will lose because their life is in disarray. We've got to continually revisit that provision with our disadvantaged students.
So in terms of the presentation today, we've come to our nuggets that we wanted to share. In terms of from Pearson, and I'll skip through a lot of these quite quickly because we're at the time now in terms of what the session was supposed to be. But don't forget, Emporium, get your login sorted, riddled with support, riddled with ideas, and particularly we've talked about some of them throughout today already. And I'm just going to skip to aiming for papers, brilliant, great for intervention, and do not rule out the power of the aiming for a grade 1 paper. And I'm not talking about for aiming for grade 1s, I'm talking about every student. Can they nail and get a high score on the nitty gritty? So please have a look at the aiming for papers. Mal mentioned it, the reordered papers, I think it's the 17 and 18 papers have got these on there, which says the average or the mean score for a question was, so the students can see that they're doing better than average. But also if they rack up their scores, they can see when they've got to a nominal grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on those papers. I think they are brilliant, great for intervention. New and updated revision programs, and have a look at that. And we've got the 6-week boot camp, if you like. Have a look at that in the revision support folder, which is, and there's a brand new higher version now. Have a look at those on the Emporium as well. And I'm going to flick through to access to scripts, results plus. These are the big juicy bits of software that Pearson have got, and we've got extra training available for those if you want to, and we can even talk about it direct with you after, thinking about it ready for September, how to use these bits of software. We've mentioned Exam Wizard throughout, and I'm going to do a big reminder right at this point. Don't forget to have your Pearson Authenticator app on your phone ready for getting into these pieces of software. You can contact us, speak to your local rep, give us an email if you want any more support, and there's other things out there, so some revision resources, books, and I think here the new online subscription as well for Revise if you want some more information on that. But don't forget us, we are available. We're there at the end of an email, we can be on a Zoom call, we can jump on a phone call with you guys and support you throughout. We're in the job, and that's what we do. Emails are there, mal@justmaths.co.uk, christian@justmaths.co.uk. Very easy to remember, and we are there for you whenever you want. And I'm going to skip to the very end, and you can have a look at your in your own time at the further support offered by Pearson.